The quantum entanglement communicator crackled with static as Kivan adjusted the frequency modulator for the third time that hour. Outside the observation dome of Research Station, the gas giant's ammonia clouds swirled in hypnotic patterns, backlit by the system's binary stars. He'd been alone for 6 months, collecting atmospheric data and running linguistic algorithms on the electromagnetic signals that pulsed from the planet's core. Jennifer would have loved this, he thought, fingers dancing across the holographic interface. His former colleague at the Xenolinguistics Institute had always theorized that non-carbon-based life forms might communicate through quantum fluctuations rather than sound waves. She'd been ridiculed, her tenure denied, her research buried. Now, half a galaxy away, Kivan was beginning to suspect she'd been right all along. The signal pattern shifted again. This time, it wasn't random. Kivan's breath caught as the computer translated the quantum pulses into visual representations. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the universal language of intelligence. His hands trembled as he initiated the response protocol Jennifer had designed years ago, the one the Institute had called pseudoscientific fantasy. He transmitted a simple Fibonacci sequence, encoded in quantum states. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire station shuddered as something massive materialized in the space between the observation dome and the gas giant. Kivan stumbled backward, his coffee mug shattering on the deck plates. Through the transparent aluminum viewport and structure of impossible geometry hung in the vacuum, crystalline lattices that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to perceive directly. Computer analysis, Kivan whispered. Unknown vessel. Composition defies standard material classification. Energy signature indicates quantum state superposition across multiple spatial dimensions. Recommendation: maintain current position and await. The AI's voice cut off as a beam of coherent light lanced from the vessel and enveloped the station. Kivan felt his consciousness expanding, fragmenting, being pulled apart and reassembled at the quantum level. Then, impossibly, he was standing in a chamber that couldn't exist within the station's known dimensions. She stood before him, if stood was the right word for a being that seemed to phase between solid matter and pure energy. The alien queen was vast and terrible and beautiful, her form suggesting a blend of insectoid geometry and something utterly unknowable. Crystalline structures that might have been wings or sensory organs or weapons extended from her torso, refracting the strange light that emanated from the chamber's walls. Fascinating. The voice resonated directly in Kivan's mind, bypassing his ears entirely. You exist in the localized temporal stream, yet transmit in the quantum substrate. This is unexpected. Kivan's linguistic training kicked in despite his terror. The patterns of thought, the conceptual frameworks, they matched Jennifer's theoretical models almost perfectly. He focused, drawing on years of study, and attempted to formulate a response using the same quantum-coherent thought patterns. I am Kivan. I come seeking understanding. The Queen's form rippled, colors cascading across her crystalline surface in a sequence that Kivan's enhanced pattern recognition identified as surprise, or its alien equivalent. Are you speaking the language of legends? Her thought voice carried undertones of something that might have been awe, the quantum tongue of the progenitors. Kivan's mind raced. Progenitors? Jennifer had never mentioned anything about ancient civilizations. But then again, her research had been theoretical, built on mathematical models and archaeological linguistic evidence from dead worlds across the Orion Arm. I speak imperfectly, he admitted, struggling to maintain the quantum-coherent thought patterns. My species has only recently theorized this mode of communication. A colleague, a friend. She discovered fragments in ancient ruins. We thought them merely mathematical curiosities. The Queen moved closer, and Kivan felt reality bend around her presence. The progenitors seeded 1,000 galaxies before your star was born. They encoded their knowledge in quantum substrate patterns, believing that only civilizations advanced enough to perceive quantum reality deserved to inherit their legacy. Her crystalline appendages extended, and Kievan felt his consciousness touched by something vast and ancient. Suddenly, he was experiencing memories that weren't his own, images of civilizations that had risen and fallen across billions of years, all connected by this fundamental language that existed beneath the fabric of spacetime itself. Your species, the Queen continued, should not possess even fragments of this knowledge. You are young, primitive in your understanding of multidimensional physics. Yet here you stand, forming crude but recognizable phrases in the tongue that binds the ascended races. The ruins on Kepler 186f, Kievan thought, the revelation crystallizing in his mind. Jennifer excavated them 7 years ago. Symbols that seemed to shift when observed, equations that resolved differently depending on the observer's quantum state. She was right. She was right about everything. Your friend, the Queen's thought patterns carried a complex emotion Kievan couldn't quite parse. She has unlocked something that will change your species' trajectory. But knowledge without wisdom is a weapon that destroys its wielder. The chamber shifted, and Kievan found himself viewing the gas giant below from an impossible angle. Layers of reality peeled away, revealing structures within the planet's core, vast computational arrays, quantum processors that had been running for eons, processing and storing information in ways that made human technology look like cave paintings. This system, the Queen explained, is a library. One of 7,000 the progenitors left scattered across the universe. My people have been custodians here for 12 million of your years. We preserve, we protect, and we test those who come seeking the knowledge within. A test. Kievan felt his heart racing, a very human response to a decidedly post-human situation. Your crude transmission in the quantum tongue triggered our protocols. Had you been unprepared, had you lacked the fundamental understanding that allows consciousness to survive quantum state translation, you would have simply ceased. Your particles would have dispersed across probability space. Kievan thought of Jennifer, alone and disgraced on Earth, her life's work dismissed as fantasy. She'd sent him here knowing the signals existed, hoping he'd find evidence to vindicate her research. She couldn't have known she'd sent him to stumble into a cosmic library guarded by beings that existed partially outside conventional spacetime. If I pass your test, he ventured, what then? The Queen's form pulsed with colors that suggested satisfaction. You have already passed, young one, by surviving contact and demonstrating rudimentary comprehension. The question now is whether your species is ready for what comes next. The quantum tongue is not merely communication. It is a technology, a philosophy, a doorway to realities your kind has barely dreamed of. She extended a crystalline appendage, and Kievan felt something transfer into his consciousness. Vast databases of information, encoded in quantum patterns that his enhanced neural structure could barely contain. Historical records of the progenitors. Scientific principles that made human physics look like kindergarten arithmetic. Cultural exchanges between species separated by millions of light years but connected through the quantum tongue. Return to your people, the Queen instructed. Share what you can, teach what they're able to comprehend. Your friend's discovery has opened a door that cannot be closed. In time, perhaps a century or perhaps a millennium, your species will either join the community of ascended races or destroy yourselves trying to wield knowledge you don't yet understand. How do I? Kievan began. Tell Jennifer we will be watching. Tell her the guardians of acknowledge her as first speaker for humanity. And tell her this, the quantum tongue is not learned, it is remembered. Somewhere in your species' genetic past, one of you encountered the progenitors. The knowledge sleeps in your DNA, waiting to be awakened. The chamber dissolved. Kievan found himself back in the observation dome, his coffee mug whole and steaming on the console, the alien vessel gone as if it had never existed. But the knowledge remained, burning in his neurons, a gift and a burden that would change everything. He activated the long-range communicator, encoding a message for Earth, for Jennifer, for the scientific community that had dismissed her. "This is Research Station Kepler 442, he said, his voice steady despite the cosmic weight of what he'd experienced. "I have made contact. Prepare for first contact protocols. And get me Jennifer Harris from the Xenolinguistics Institute. Tell her she was right. Tell her everything is about to change." As the binary stars set beyond the gas giant's horizon, Kivan began transcribing the quantum knowledge the Queen had gifted him, knowing that humanity's true journey into the cosmos was only just beginning. The warning came too late. Jennifer Zhao stood on the observation deck of the research station Arcturus 7, watching the twin suns of the Kepler 442 system paint the horizon in shades of amber and violet. She had spent 3 years cataloguing the xenobiology of this distant world, 3 years away from Earth, 3 years in peaceful scientific pursuit. The attack shattered that peace in 17 seconds. "Director Zhao, we have incoming." The voice of Kivan Morrison, her security chief, crackled through her neural implant with an urgency that sent ice through her veins. Jennifer spun from the viewport. "What kind of incoming?" "Unknown vessels, 12 of them. They're not responding to hails," and Kivan's voice cut off as the entire station shuddered. Emergency klaxons wailed to life. Jennifer raced toward the command center, her magnetic boots clanging against the metal floors. Around her, the 43 scientists and support staff of Arcturus 7 scrambled to emergency positions. They were researchers, not soldiers. The station had defenses, but they were designed to deflect asteroids and micrometeoroids, not military aggression. She burst into the command center to find Kivan already at the tactical display, his dark eyes scanning the holographic projections with practiced intensity. Former Earth Defense Force, he had been assigned to Arcturus 7 as a formality. No one attacked scientific outposts. The Galactic Accordance Treaty, signed by 17 spacefaring species, protected civilian research stations as neutral ground. "Status," Jennifer demanded. "Vrexian destroyers," Kivan said grimly. "They launched without warning, kinetic impactors and plasma charges. Shields are at 60% and falling." Jennifer's blood ran cold. The Vrexians were a predatory species from the Andromeda sector, known for their territorial aggression and disdain for what they called lesser civilizations. But attacking a protected research station was an act of war. "Get everyone to the evacuation pods, now." "Already in progress. But Director," Kivan pulled up another display and Jennifer's breath caught. "They're targeting the pods. They're not trying to capture us. They're trying to exterminate us." Another explosion rocked the station. Sparks showered from overhead conduits. Through the viewport, Jennifer could see one of the Vrexian vessels, a sleek, mantis-like destroyer bristling with weapons, moving into position for another strike. "Why?" Jennifer whispered. "We're scientists, we're unarmed." Kivan's jaw tightened. "Because we're human. We're the newcomers, remember? The species that went from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in 2 centuries. Some of the older civilizations see us as a threat. Send a distress signal to Earth. Full emergency protocol." "Already done. But Director, Earth is 47 light-years away. Even with quantum communication, the fleet response time." "I know," Jennifer interrupted, "but we follow protocol. Get as many people out as you can. I'm staying until the last pod launches." Kivan grabbed her arm. "That's suicide." "That's command." Jennifer met his eyes steadily. "Go, that's an order." For a moment, the security chief looked like he might argue. Then he nodded sharply and moved to coordinate the evacuation. Jennifer turned back to the displays, watching with growing horror as the Vrexian vessels methodically dismantled her station. Each blast was calculated, efficient. They were sending a message. The evacuation proceeded with desperate speed. Pod after pod jettisoned from Arcturus 7, streaking toward the outer system where they might find cover among the asteroid fields. But the Vrexians were relentless. Jennifer watched 3 pods vanish in brilliant explosions before they could reach safety. 23 minutes after the attack began, only one pod remained. Kivan appeared at her shoulder. "Everyone's away who's getting away," he said quietly. "That last pod is for you and me." "How many did we lose?" 14 confirmed, 6 more pods under pursuit. His voice was hollow. "Director, we need to go now." Jennifer took one last look at the station she had called home. The research, the discoveries, 3 years of her life. Then she turned and ran. They reached the final evacuation pod as another explosion tore through the station's western quarter. The blast waved through them against the wall. Kivan recovered first, hauling Jennifer to her feet and pushing her toward the pod's airlock. "Go, go," he shouted. They tumbled inside. The hatch sealed. Launch sequence initiated. Jennifer strapped into the crash seat as the pod's emergency thrusters fired, pushing them away from the dying station. Through the small viewport, she watched Arcturus 7 break apart, years of research scattering into the void. The Vrexian destroyers didn't pursue their pod. Their work was done. "They'll pay for this," Kivan said, his voice shaking with rage. "Earth will make them pay." Jennifer said nothing. She had studied galactic history extensively. Humanity was young, barely a century into their presence among the stars. The Vrexians had conquered worlds for 3 millennia. What could Earth possibly do against such power? The answer came 48 hours later. Their pod had been recovered by an automated merchant vessel. Jennifer and Kivan sat in its small medical bay, treating minor injuries, when the news broadcast began. Jennifer's hands stilled as she watched the holoscreen. Unprecedented military response from the Terran Federation. In retaliation for the unprovoked attack on Research Station Arcturus 7, Earth's combined fleet has been deployed to Vrexian space. Admiral Chen has issued the following statement. The image shifted to show a stern woman in the dark blue uniform of the Earth Defense Force. The attack on Arcturus 7 was an act of genocide against civilian scientists. 20 deaths have been confirmed. The Vrexian Empire has refused all attempts at diplomatic resolution and has instead celebrated this massacre as a warning to humanity. Therefore, the Terran Federation Council has authorized a full military response. The Vrexian civilization will be given one opportunity to surrender unconditionally. If they refuse, they will be erased. Jennifer's stomach dropped. Erased, she can't mean. She means exactly that, Kivan said, his expression unreadable. The broadcast continued. Jennifer watched in growing disbelief as the scope of Earth's response became clear. 200 warships, the entire defensive fleet, planet crackers, kinetic bombardment platforms, weapons that had been developed but never deployed, held in reserve against the possibility of existential threat. "This is insane," Jennifer breathed. "They killed 20 of us, 20, and were going to exterminate an entire species." Kivan turned to her. "You think this is about revenge? Director, this is about survival. The Vrexians attacked a civilian station to send a message. Humans are weak. Humans can be killed with impunity. If Earth doesn't respond with overwhelming force, every species in the galaxy will think they can do the same." "But genocide is what they attempted against us," Kivan said flatly. "They targeted evacuation pods. They hunted refugees. What happens if we show weakness? How many more stations get attacked? How many colonies?" Jennifer had no answer. The Vrexian War lasted 6 days. The first day, Earth's fleet arrived in Vrexian space and issued the surrender demand. The Vrexian Emperor responded by launching his own fleet of 800 warships, confident that numerical superiority would prevail. The second day, the Battle of Vrex Prime began. Earth's ships deployed weapons the galaxy had never seen. Quantum disruptors that collapsed shields from the inside, AI-guided munitions that learned and adapted with each shot, directed energy weapons operating at wavelengths that passed through conventional armor like tissue paper. The Vrexian fleet was destroyed in 4 hours. The third day, Admiral Chen issued a second surrender demand. The Vrexian emperor refused, calling humans cowardly vermin and vowing eternal war. The fourth day, Earth deployed the planet crackers. The fifth day, the Vrexian homeworld was gone, shattered into asteroid fragments. 12 billion lives ended in an instant. The sixth day, the remaining Vrexian colonies surrendered unconditionally. Jennifer watched it all from the merchant vessel, unable to look away, unable to process the magnitude of what had happened. An entire civilization, 3,000 years old, erased in less than a week. The galactic response was immediate and terrified. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. 17 species condemned Earth's actions. 15 species condemned the Vrexian attack. 23 species said nothing at all, too frightened to take any position. But no one moved against humanity. No one dared. Kievan found Jennifer in the observation lounge 3 days after the surrender, staring out at the stars. "We're monsters," she said quietly. "We're survivors," Kievan corrected. "The Vrexians taught the galaxy a lesson they thought they were teaching us. They learned that humans protect their own, that attacking us has consequences. 20 lives for an entire species. How is that justice?" "It's not justice, it's deterrence." Kievan sat beside her. "Every species out there is doing the math now. Is killing a few humans worth the risk? The answer is no, and that means our people are safer." Jennifer closed her eyes. She thought of her colleagues, of the research lost, of the 14 who died on Arcturus 7, and she thought of the 12 billion Vrexians who would never see another sunrise. "I used to believe we were better than this," she whispered. "We are better than this," Kievan said. "That's why it only took 6 days. Any other species would have dragged it out, would have made them suffer. We gave them chances to surrender. They chose extinction." Jennifer wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. 6 months later, she received her new assignment, director of Arcturus 8, a rebuilt research station on the same world. Earth had sent a message with the reconstruction. Humanity would not be intimidated, would not retreat, would not hide. As Jennifer stood on the new observation deck, watching those same twin suns paint the horizon, she wondered what kind of galaxy they had created. One where peace was maintained through fear, where humanity's scientific curiosity was backed by overwhelming military might. The stars had seemed so full of possibility once. Now they seemed full of warnings. But they were still there, and so was humanity. And everyone in the galaxy knew, if you attacked humans, Earth would respond. Not with proportion, not with restraint. With finality. The end.